So it is a must-win tie going into their clash against Iran. And it's now time for our camp report, brought to you by Modelo.
The U.S. national team delivered a steady and stout performance against England on Friday night, and the scoreless draw has set up a situation that is very easy to define. The U.S. plays Iran on Tuesday in their final group stage game, and if they win, they move on to the knockout rounds. A draw or a loss, though, sends them home.
We know that they're going to have, some strength, some power, some energy coming into this game because they know also that if they get a result that they're in, so most likely. So for us, we need to control what we can control, but we're going to be ultra aggressive to go out there and play our game.
You guys have talked for a long time about wanting to change the perception of soccer in America. What would a win in a game like this one mean?
It would show that we're able to navigate through a tournament setting in the right way. It would show our progression over the past couple of years and how far we've come. I think, a game like tonight has set the tone to show that, we can stand with some of the highest quality opponents in the world, and now we have to continue to do that consistently.
Two main questions hanging over the U.S. group as they head into that match against Iran, and the first has to do with scoring. One goal through 180 minutes at this World Cup, and they know they're going to have to score if they want to go through, which brings into focus the situation with Gio Reyna. Many fans following this U.S. team have wanted to see Reyna much more than he's been on the field, only 11 minutes of action through 2 games. There was some concern about a health situation, whether he was injured, but everybody that I've spoken to says that there is no health issue here. Reyna's lack of playing time is down to a coach's decision, and so it remains to be seen whether Greg Berhalter will give him the start against Iran on Tuesday. The second question is how this young U.S. group will handle the pressure of the moment. Obviously, a win-or-go-home game comes with some incredible stakes, but the U.S. will also have the crowd against it. That's a result of the first World Cup to be held in the Arab world. Teams like Morocco, Tunisia, and yes, Iran have had incredible support from fans here, and there's no doubt that on Tuesday night, the U.S. will be facing a team that's favored by most of the crowd. In Doha, Sam Borden, ESPN.
Let's take a look at the English perspective, shall we? Fright night, yawn in the USA, reality check, stars and gripes, football nil, soccer nil, with just some of the headlines after that goalless draw. Guys, none of you were with us yesterday. It'd be good to get your take. Frank, first off.
Well, I was disappointed. I was disappointed by the English team. We said before the game that if England put everything into the game, they're going to win it. But they did everything they shouldn't have done, and to allow United States to have some hopes, and it's what happened. They didn't play the game. I think Southgate has to be blamed because of the choices that he made. That we didn't see Foden. We should have seen Foden, and that. That's the spirit that they had in the first game. They lost it during that game and against the United States.
I thought it was as abject a display as you could expect from England. I thought US were by far the better of the two teams. Maybe had they had an out-and-out goal scorer, somebody anywhere near the quality of a Harry Kane, this would be a pretty one-sided scoreline in all honesty. And if you're Gareth Southgate, I'm not sure how you correct that, because even as I think back to yesterday's game, and I'm trying to think of the England starting 11, I'm trying to think of anybody who contributed. The only name that comes to mind is Harry Maguire. And that maybe that silence speaks volumes as to exactly how poor England were. Haji Wright, I do think for the US imposed himself on the game. So it's a difficult one to judge from an England perspective as to how you go from being so good against Iran to being so abjectly average against the US. From the US perspective, how do you build on that momentum? But the question for Berhalter is, where do the goals come from? And unless a Christian Pulisic or Gio Reyna steps up, I'm not sure that he has the answers either.
Where do they come from?
I don't think they have those answers, because if those answers were straightforward, we would have been seeing them being displayed out on the field. The truth of the matter is that coming into the World Cup, we were thinking, okay, what would be ideal for the United States in terms of their offensive setup? That you would have Christian Pulisic and then that you would have Gio Reyna opposite of him. because Gio Reyna has that personality of taking players on, has the personality of receiving the ball in tight areas, because he likes that spotlight. We have seen that from him time and time again. And then that would allow the freedom of Christian Pulisic to then drive at defenders. That's what you would have thought ideally the United States would be able to do. And yet, somehow, in games that are calling for that sort of player, Berhalter says, now, coach's decision, one of our most talented players in the attack, yeah, you just sit on the bench. I don't get it. I don't understand it. And to be quite honest with you, one of the things that was most disappointing about the game yesterday, from both perspectives, was at the end of the match, the United States has a free kick to swing the ball in, an opportunity to swing the ball in.
Crazy.
Greg Berhalter is telling them, hey, it's almost over, relax, no problem. So I'm thinking, okay, they're taking their time because they're going to swing this ball in. It's going to be a chance. Historically, we have thought of the United States as a team that dominates set pieces, or at the very least, that's how they get their goals. What do? We're going to play the ball to the corner. What?
Oh.
Are you kidding me?
Oh, no.
We're going to play the ball in the corner?
You need those notes later.
Huh? Sorry, Dan, I carried away.
Let's just take a look at the group, because I want to ask you who's going through.
Well, England and United States. I go for that.
What about the throwing of the papers? There's no one's going to score the goals.
Well, you can correct some stuff, and get up and get the shits back, and everything's going to be all right.
You get my chance. Did I miss another one?
Well, he wanted to make a point, and we understand the frustration of Ale, but I think United States will correct that and go through.
The challenge for the United States is that in this game against Iran, they're going to have the responsibility of creating the chances.
Right.
They're going to have the responsibility of taking the game to Iran. And that's when I think the United States struggles the most. And yet, USA, baby. I'm riding USA.
Wow.
England, United States to go through. I'm not sure that I quite believe it.
You threw the papers and
I hung on the second time.
Before this tournament started, I picked England and Iran to go through. I'm only allowed to change my mind once every 2 days.
All right.
Okay. Is that a personal rule?
So I've got to stick with Iran. But to that point, I think Iran have momentum. In a game that the US are left wondering why we didn't get more out of it, how could we have gotten more out of it, and that lack of belief that Ali just pointed out down to the end, contrast that with an Iranian team who dominate 90 minutes, scored 2 very late goals. Given everything around Iran, given the fact that this tournament is in the Middle East, all that they're dealing with politically, that momentum, I think, is telling. That momentum gets them over the line.
Is Phil Foden okay?
He's well rested.
He's all right?
Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week. Subscribe to ESPN Plus.